With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Unlock your dream property with Meeks Realty Group, where Rich the Realtor makes real estate dreams a reality. Whether it's residential or commercial, we've got Charleston to Huntington covered. Your key to exceptional real estate experiences start here. Meeks Realty Group. Contact us at meeks.us.
The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 580 WCHS, its employees, or WVRC Media. From the studios of WVRC Media, the country, the United States of America, the state, West Virginia, the city, Charleston. This is the Dave Allen Show on 580 Live. And your host.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
He's kind of a big deal.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Dave Allen.
And a good Tuesday morning to you. Welcome to the show. Bigly, Piggly, Wiggly Hotline 304-345-5858. Tony the Taylor text 304-935-5008. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live comes to you from the Jarrett Construction Studios. Right on time, right on budget. Visit jarrett-construction.com. Phone calls to the show, a service of Bigly, Piggly, Wiggly, Spring Street, Charleston. Texting services provided by West Virginia's finest men's store. Tony the Taylor, Virginia Street. Tony's summer hours in effect now. Mondays 11 to 3. Tuesday through Friday, 10 to 5:30. Saturdays by appointment only. Check out bestmastertaylor.com or Tony's Facebook page for more information. All right, so it is a Tuesday edition of the show coming up a little bit later on, and you've heard us talking about it on the news. There's some changes coming. Some have already come and more to come with KRT, the bus system here in the Kanawha Valley. Sean Hill, the executive director, will be joining us. There was a press event held yesterday, and there's some public meetings coming up about those. Sean Hill will be in studio with us coming up in about 15 minutes to answer any questions you have. So if you have any questions about some of the proposed changes, some, again, that have already taken place with KRT, Sean is the guy, the executive director. He's in studio with us. And he'll be happy to answer any of those questions for you. Plus, we've got several things in the news I want to get to as well a little bit later on in the hour. But as always, your phone calls and texts are welcome. Bigly, Piggly, Wiggly Hotline, 304-345-5858. Tony the Taylor text, 304-935-5008. Our senior producer, Ryan Nicholson, in charge of things across the glass this morning, is bringing our good buddy, Rich the Realtor. Klein with a K.
That's right.
From Meeks Realty. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you, bud?
The big question I have to ask you before we get into anything else, and this is big time major league stuff here, okay? All right. How do you feel about Aaron Rodgers being a Pittsburgh? You being the Pittsburgh Steeler expert and the guy.
I'm not sure about expert.
How do you feel about Aaron Rodgers being a Steeler?
I was against the move. I've been against those moves. And they kind of the Steelers have been going after the retread quarterbacks now for a while, trying to find their way, and it's not working. So I was against this one as well. I think he's done. I think his stats show it. So it'll be another frustrating 9-8 year, most likely. So lower your expectations, but not as low as the Cowboys.
All right. See, you had to go there. Here, I give you an opportunity to talk about your team, and but the Dallas Cowboys live rent free in Steeler fans' heads for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, I know
since it's been since 95 since you guys took home a Lombardi. So
technically 96 because it was January 96. Right. Yeah, all right. Well, you're all right, Rich. Sorry you can't stay. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, it's nice to see you.
Thanks for coming. All right, Rich comes in with us every so often, just talk about the real estate market here in the Kanawha Valley. And as always, Rich is open to take questions. If you got them, feel free to give us a call. Bigly, Piggly, Wiggly Hotline, 304-345-5858 over text line, courtesy of Tony the Taylor, 304-935-5008. Overall, we'll break it down specifically. How is the market in the Kanawha Valley?
The market's it just kind of has the ebb and flows and up and down a little bit. And I've said this before on the air and kind of reflect on this a little bit prior to COVID, our multiple listing service, which covers 11 counties here in the Kanawha Valley Board, we have between 1,500 and 1,800 active listings at all time. I mean, that's just kind of how it was. Probably 150 or so of those were above $700,000, and then another couple hundred of those were below 100, and those were kind of always there. But since 2021, for sure, started dropping pretty harshly in 2020. Just inventory levels have just not recovered. I mean, we're at a little under 600 now total, and we probably have close to 100 of those $700,000 or up. Listings are still there, and 100 of the ones that are $100,000 or less. So there just aren't a lot to pick from. Remember, that's over 11 counties.
Yeah.
So the inventory has not improved. It goes up a little bit. We'll go up close to 600 and we'll drop back down to 500, which is what happened we dropped back down to 500 during the spring selling season that kind of starts in March. It's slowing a little bit in the summertime, but we'll pick back up probably in August. Maybe July, August, or September. We'll do that a little bit more.
And Rich, you hear, and we've frequently talked about this on the show. I've had some elected officials. Terrell Ellis comes in from time to time from Advantage Valley, and we talk about this need for homes here specifically in the Kanawha Valley. And some people may hear that and they think, why do we need more homes? You're a realtor. Explain why we need more homes.
Well, the demand is high, so you can't get a rental either. So lots of folks that are in rentals are trying to get into the American dream kind of thing, to own your own piece of the pie. And there's so many advantages for ownership versus renting. And, but there's so many people that can't even get into that. There are people that are trying to move here that can't find suitable housing for themselves. And, I did hear, I don't have all the details on this, but I did hear a developer in the Point Pleasant area is going to build 200 homes up there. I'm sure all to support the ancillary jobs for Nucor and all the kind of stuff that's going. But there is a demand here for those houses to be. And, unfortunately, the last several years, and this is my opinion, of course, but first of all, there aren't a lot of builders out there anymore who are building single-family homes. Those builders that are out there are building apartments and quads and those kind of things.
But now, why is that? Why are they more interested? Is it because we have these workers coming in from, you mentioned Nucor and some of these other companies that are coming in that maybe they don't view it, because you never know what Nucor, and I'll use them for an example. Rich, Nucor is a major international company with spots all around the United States. And do they just view that as maybe, well, we're coming in here, we don't know how long we're going to be here, so we may not necessarily we may be transferred out to someplace else. We may not want to make that dive into a full family home. Is that the reason?
I think that could be part of the reason. A lot of people are, and they're currently with rates that are close to 7% too. People are more, you get stuck in those rates. That's another big problem we have with buyers these days, is that, at some point, a couple of years ago, there were I think the stat came out that there were 70% of all homeowners who were in a mortgage had mortgages below 4%. 70%. Mm-hmm. So why do you want to take those people into a 7%? What's the benefit for them? So if a person comes in now and buys, they're at a 7% mortgage. Maybe they're planning on being there 5 years. Then they've got a 7% mortgage. I think it's a combination of all those things that are floating around there that are just kind of creating our problem.
Talking to Rich the Realtor. Again, the Dave Allen Show on 580 Live is brought to you in part by Husson's Pizza, where this month get a large 18-inch pepperoni pizza and a whole 10-inch sub, $23.99. Find your closest Husson's for delivery, pickup, or dine in by going to Husson'sPizza.com. And again, you guys, it makes, you're all over, you can sell wherever. But you're a Tays Valley guy. That's where you live. It's where your office is and stuff. Talk about what's been going on in Tays Valley with these people coming in here.
So the biggest benefit about homeownership since the COVID thing happened is just home values have gone. They've just skyrocketed. And I think some people are holding out of the market thinking, well, they're going to come back down. And that is not looking like the trend. If you're holding out for those home prices to come down, you're kind of fighting a losing battle there, in my opinion. I did a little research not too long ago. These are trailing 12 months from May to May. Okay. And this is just Putnam County. So from May 2022 to May of 2023. In Putnam County, there were 533 homes sold. And the average price of those homes sold were $271,958. This is all of Putnam County. Mm-hmm. That's $124 a square foot. Okay. So then from 2023 to 2024, there were 627 homes sold in Putnam County for an average value of $282,954, $129 a square foot. So it went up on both of those spectrums. And then 2024 to 2025 is the bigger one. 511 sold, which is fewer, but the average price went to $305,120. And that's $143.83 a square foot. So the home values, the price per square foot, all of that has, and Kanawha County is similar. I didn't run the exact numbers for Kanawha County, but that isn't a value of, I mean, that's an advantage for home ownership.
It is indeed. It is indeed. And we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but the average person comes to you. What are they looking for? As far as a home, what type of home are they looking for? The average guy.
The average is 3-bedroom, 2-bath. They like a little land. That's one of the funny. It's not funny. It's just the way it is. That they, we want to have. We don't really have neighbors, but we want to live in Hurricane. Mm-hmm. And there's fewer of those houses available out there. You're going to be in a subdivision. There's going to be an HOA.
Let me jump in here. I got a good friend of mine who is looking to move his family into the Taze Valley area, and he told me that exact same thing. Yeah. He said, I want to be like right there in Hurricane. I want to be in Taze Valley, but I don't want to be too close to my neighbors.
Right.
I'm thinking,
it's just not. It's a tougher find. Doesn't mean it's not out there.
It's out there,
but you better bring your patience with you. As we look for those homes. So, but I'll tell you just a little bit for just touching on buyers a little. First thing the buyers should be doing is getting pre-qualified. They should talk to a lender. There are many options for loans, and not all loans are for the same. It's not a cookie cutter scenario. If you talk to just one of the banks, they're going to have kind of a very narrow amount or options for loans. But if you go to one of these lenders like Gateway Mortgage or Prime Lending or Rate Mortgage, there's so many of those that are out there, and they each have different programs for different buyers. And I would highly encourage buyers to go get pre-qualified. It's a free 20-minute phone call, helps you understand what your payments are going to be like. It'll help you factor in all of your your escrow account, all of that thing that you'll need to know before you start shopping. One of the worst things that can happen is that you find an agent and they show you a house that you think you can afford, and let's say it's $50,000 over your asking or over your budget that you're not even aware of yet. And it's going to be really difficult to find a home when you go and talk to a lender and you find out you can't afford that and you have to drop down in value in those homes. It's hard to find those that will meet your expectation. So get your loan sorted and understand what it's going to be like so that you're comfortable with it, and then find your agent, find them and have them start looking. And, you'd still have to sign the buyer's representation agreement. Remember that everything in real estate, first rule of real estate is everything is negotiable. And that's not just the home price, but it's the seller concessions, it's commissions, it's personal property that's left behind at the house. Everything in real estate's negotiable.
But I don't need a realtor. I can just use Zillow.
Well, yeah. Good luck. So
I set you up there.
Yeah,
so.
you did. Yeah. And I have to be careful what I say about that kind of thing. But, you have to, I would highly encourage you to use a professional. I mean,
that's all you need to say.
You don't, at one point, 80% of all homes that were, particularly on the seller's side, 80% of those did not make it to closing. There's a lot to navigate. There's a lot going on. This is a huge, and you're most likely your biggest purchase of your life. Yeah. I think you'd want some representation who know what they're doing.
All right. Before we let you go, is there any particular properties out there right now that you're
so I'd like to steer everyone toward the 75 Poinsettia Drive in Scott Depot. This is a giant 5,600 square foot home. It has a 2,300 square foot basement that's not finished, but has a full gym in there with a sauna. So much potential, has a pool. It's in a just right off of where 64 and Route 35 come together. It also has an assumable loan. So it's going to be something if you want to talk about how that works. There are lots of moving parts to an assumable loan, but the seller is a veteran and that loan becomes assumable and his rate's at 2.375. So that's 2.375 rate that is assumable. Now there's some moving parts there and you have to have you can't just take over payments. It doesn't work that way, but you are assuming the loan. And if you have the cash available to buy the equity that's in the home, then that might be for you. That's a significant difference, from a 7% mortgage. So,
and people can see that home where?
They can find it on any of the secondary sites, the Realtor.coms or the Zillows or those kind of things, or they can call or text me directly and I can send you the link right from the MLS, including all the disclosures. And again, it's 75 Poinsettia Drive in Scott Depot.
It's a beautiful home, too. I've seen it
It's
online.
gorgeous.
It's a beautiful home. Do have a question here for you. Somebody did have a question toward the end. It said, with so many abandoned homes as well as neglected plots of land, what is the ratio of those properties just sitting there compared to home applications? Would buying those properties help with those?
It could help with those. Most of those abandoned properties are flip opportunities. And again, some of those builders that are out there who are only doing flips now might pull those out. And try and, flip those for a profit. And, flippers are always looking at comps too. So some of those abandoned properties, now the plots of land are a different story. I feel like we still have plenty of land to build on, but again, you have to have the builders to do that. But those flip opportunities are those ones that are, they have to have the comps around them to support the investment that goes into it. And remember, the $143 a square foot on the sold is, that's cheaper to buy the house like that than it is to buy the material to flip or to build.
We didn't even get into commercial properties. We'll do that the next time we're here.
That sounds good.
Rich the Realtor, how can people contact you?
Yeah, call me or text me directly. That's the best way to catch me. And that's at 304-932-7488. 304-932-7488.
Rich the Realtor. Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it. Yes,
I believe
sir.
you took a shot at my Cowboys. I'm giving you an opportunity to talk about the Steelers, and you just jump in there, man.
That's what Steelers fans do.
Yeah, I guess. Rich the Realtor, 923. Of course, we don't want to talk about baseball season, you being a Pirates fan. Vaccines are your best protection against severe disease from flu and COVID-19. If you're 65 or older, risk less. Do more with this season's vaccines. Get started at vaccines.gov, paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. We'll take a break. Sean Hill from KRT coming up next, back after this on the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses care for your family.
Earn more with 4 at the best community bank in the Kanawha Valley, Polka Valley Bank. Polka Valley Bank is now offering a certificate of deposit special, 10-month APY, annual percentage yield 4%. Take advantage of this great rate to grow your savings. For more information, stop by one of the 8 Polka Valley Bank locations today. Polka Valley Bank, where relationships matter. Certain terms and conditions apply. Rates based on minimum annual percentage yield, subject to change without notice. Minimum deposit required of $10,000 of new money not currently on deposit with Polka Valley Bank to receive APY. Member FDIC.
When you need a fighter, you need us. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm for the people.
Office 222 Capitol Street, Charleston. Cases will be handled by West Virginia licensed attorneys. The attorney in this ad is not licensed in West Virginia. ForThePeople.com.
Hi, I'm Brittany Hedrick. As an environmental project manager at CEC, working in West Virginia, the land taught me respect and responsibility. Whether it's navigating complex regulations or overseeing site assessments, I ensure every project thrives. CEC isn't just where I work, it's where I make a difference. At CEC, we engineer progress in the great state of West Virginia.
Find out what CEC can do for you. Visit cecinc.com.
The latest in news, talk, and sports on 580 WCHS is brought to you by Jarrett Construction. Visit jarrett-construction.com for more information.
Right on time, right on budget. Call on Jarrett Construction.
Oh! 925. Biggly, Piggly, Wiggly hotline 304-345-5858. Tony Taylor text 304-935-5008. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live brought to you in part by your hometown baseball team, the Charleston Dirty Birds. Birds are in Lexington this week. Back at home, though, at Gomart Ballpark Friday night to begin a weekend series against Gastonia. For tickets, schedules, promotions, merchandise, and more, visit dirtybirdsbaseball.com. Sean Hill from KRT joins us in studio this morning. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here. All right, so we've heard over the last several months about a lot of changes coming to KRT. You've been on the show a couple times to talk about what's already happened. Possibly, you called it off the air this morning. You said kind of in the home stretch, and there's public meetings coming up. Kind of update us on what's already happened and what's to come with KRT.
Sure. So thanks, Dave. That's correct. So about 2 years ago, we took a really hard look at KRT's system in general and said, hey, what's working, what's not working? We started a series of public hearings where we got feedback from our passengers and from the community saying, hey, here's what we think works with our routes. What can we do to make our system more efficient and actually do more with the same amount of funding, right? So we came out, and last fall in October, our board made a decision to take essentially originally there was a plan to eliminate about 11 routes. Instead of doing that, we actually halved the service for those routes, and then the Sunday service dropped off for us. So those changes took place in February of this year, and now we're coming back to the table and saying, okay, well, how did those changes work? How are our new plans as far as this microtransit concept that we have, the KRT Plus, that we originally had 3 pilot zones for the program. Now we're looking at expanding that out to 6 zones so we can cover up some of these areas that were traditionally served by these fixed routes that are extremely over-subsidized. So we said, hey, if it costs so much to operate the bus line on these routes, can we perform the same service, get people to work, doctors' offices, grocery stores, but do it in a more efficient way with smaller vehicles? And that's what we're doing, and we're excited about it.
What were some of the, when you started making the changes, Sean, in February, and you said we're kind of taking a look at how those changes went. How did they go? What you did so far?
Yeah. So what we wanted to see was how the adoption of the microtransit program. So we started in October with that program. We're now hovering around 3,500 rides a month. So individuals are picking that up. And again, that was in a small area, just East Charleston, West Charleston, and South Hills. So we think that we were able to accomplish about a 90% completion rate, and some of that stuff we can't control when individuals cancel a ride, et cetera. So that kind of bumps our numbers down. But from seeing that we could provide 90% of the service there for 3,500 rides, it gave us the confidence to say, yes, we can make this a bigger area. And by making that a bigger area, we can then cover those routes that traditionally we call them the hill routes there. So there's 6 different routes that we're looking at and saying, can we replace those 6 routes with microtransit, which will save us money at KRT, but also will give our passengers an option to continue to have public service. So instead of taking something away from them and saying, hey, we don't have anything to replace this with, thankfully we have something we're confident will work that will actually provide them service.
And explain the whole concept of microtransit.
Yeah, so microtransit is essentially the same as when you call a rideshare service, so Uber or Lyft, but think that KRT operates it. So you've got these drug-tested, background-checked individuals. You've got cameras on the vehicles. You can go download the KRT Plus app right now in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, or you can just call into our office and schedule it old school style. Either way, whatever works for people, but they get on the app or they call into our office and say, hey, I need a ride tomorrow at 7 a.m. at my home. I'm going somewhere either inside my zone or I'm going to a fixed route. I'm going to the bus line somewhere. Mm-hmm. And our system will then schedule that route. A smaller vehicle will show up. We've got these smaller Sprinter vans that we actually just purchased. They'll show up, pick you up, and take you to that location for the same $1.50 it would have cost you to ride the bus. That saves us money because instead of driving those buses around all day long up and down those hills, there's more expensive buses, less fuel efficient. Mm-hmm. And if there's not as many people riding those actual routes, now we're only going out there in a smaller vehicle when someone needs the ride.
And talk about the vehicles. Again, these are not the large buses that you're used to seeing. They're what I would say like they're transit vans, kind of look like a church van, maybe something like that. Explain
exactly.
that.
So people will have noticed there's some smaller vans going around Kanawha County. They're a gray style of van. That's what we've been using for our microtransit service to date. In the next 2 weeks, we're rolling out 14 new Sprinter style vans. So it's exactly what you're talking about. It's a smaller vehicle. For us, that's great for several different reasons. It's a lower price point. It's a Ford Transit vehicle, so we save about $30,000 versus our prior model of paratransit vehicles. But it's also more fuel efficient. It's smaller, therefore our drivers have an easier time with, squeezing into some of these different locations that tend to be a problem historically. So it's a win-win-win there, but it also still has the same level of functionality and comfort for our passengers, which is important.
Talking to Sean Hill, again, the executive director of KRT. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live is presented in part by Generations Physical Therapy. 9 practices, all offering extended hours, so access to physical therapy has never been easier. For an appointment, 304-760-5660 or visit generationspt.com. Let's go back a little bit and talk about where we go from the very beginning for the reasons for these changes that first started being talked about, as you said, last year.
Sure. And I think what's important that we've learned through this process is that transit, public transit specifically, needs to be something that we look at fluidly. So instead of looking at it every 10 or 15 years and doing a study and say, okay, what's right and what's wrong, it's something that needs to be looked at every single year and saying, hey, what modifications can happen in order to maximize and make this system work for as many people as possible. So essentially what happened was for the 53 years that KRT was in existence, we were expanding and going to all these places. And Kanawha County is a challenging county to serve with public transit or any transit. It's a tough problem to solve. So what you ended up with was a system that looked kind of like a spaghetti mess on the kitchen table of all the routes that KRT would go to, almost every corner of the county. But what we saw was when you look at the data of who actually rides those routes, about 85% of our ridership are on just 3 routes. You're going to Nitro, you're going to Cross Lanes, St. Albans. That carries the majority of our ridership. And these other routes that kind of tentacle out and the pieces of spaghetti are much smaller ridership numbers. So that's when we started looking at, are there alternatives? What can we do to still provide service but save some money too and live within our means? That's our big goal. We want to make sure that we can say we're being responsible with the funds that we are given.
And where do the funds come from, for those that don't know?
Sure. So about 70% of our funds come from the Kanawha County Public Safety Levy. So the biggest thing for us is the safety levy. So when that comes up, it's a big deal for us to make sure that we can say, hey, here's what KRT offers. We offer bus service. We offer this on-demand service, our paratransit services. On days like today, if you from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., if you come down to the city center, there's a cooling bus down there. So individuals who are out there in the heat can actually hop on the bus and not have to be experiencing that. We provide evacuations whenever there's an emergency somewhere in Kanawha County. So we rely on that safety levy for the majority of our funding. The feds come in with about 20% of our funding. 7% of it is from actual ticketing costs. So when our passengers say, well, just raise the ticket prices and that'll solve the problem, that's not where our funding comes from. We recognize that it's from the safety levy, it's from the federal government, and from the state. So it's taxpayer money, and that's why we are so protective of that and say, hey, we want to make sure we're as fiscally responsible as possible so we can look people in the eye in Kanawha County and say we're trying everything we can to make our dollars go further.
And it's inexpensive. I mean, to ride the bus, it's point blank, just inexpensive.
Oh, it's very inexpensive. I mean, it's still that $1.50 single ride. We're actually on July 14th, we're enacting some of the fare changes. So the only difference there is that our single ride is going to stay the same. Our day pass will go from $250 to $350, which is still very reasonable. And our monthly passes are actually going to drop from $60 down to $50.
That's something you don't hear very often. Prices dropping.
Yeah, we're dropping them down to $50, and we're also capping them. It's a program called fare capping, where you say, look, if you spend $50 at KRT in one 30-day period, if you go to buy another ticket, it's going to be free. Because what we recognized from looking at the data was individuals at the beginning of the month wouldn't want to lay down $60 to get a month pass, but they'd end up paying that $250 a day, which would end up adding up to more than if they had just bought the pass on the first day. Mm-hmm. So this is saying, hey, for our people who ride every single day, we want to give you a break and recognize that. So once you spend that $50, you will ride for free with KRT for the rest of the month. So that's important to us, and that's our way of giving back to those everyday riders.
Got a text here that said, are car seats required for babies?
Car seats are required for babies, yes. So, and it would depend on which style, if you're with the microtransit or if you're riding on the actual bus. But we'd be happy to, on our website, there's some information on the rules as far as ridership, because we have different rules as far as heights, et cetera, as it relates to if the individuals can ride alone, but babies themselves, you would want, a lot of times we have people on strollers that they're able to attach onto the actual vehicles.
And what is the website again?
It's rideonkrt.com. So if you go to www.rideonkrt.com, there's also an informational page. If you look for public information, you can see all the information for the public hearings that we're having. And one of those is today at 5 p.m. at the Kanawha County Public Library, and the other one is Friday at noon at the Kanawha County.
And I want to get to those public hearings in just a moment. We have another question here. Did you have to hire more drivers?
So what we have is a fleet of drivers. We have our fixed route operators, so those are what you would call a bus driver, and then we have on-demand drivers, who operate the microtransit, the paratransit, and our SOAR program.
So it does pretty much work like an Uber or Lyft or something like that.
Exactly.
They're just on demand.
Yep, they are on demand, so they'll be driving around. So what they have 3 different functions. They are at times they are transporting the individuals who qualify for our paratransit program. So those individuals qualify because they have some challenge that makes it so they can't drive themselves, right? So these vehicles are out in those areas already, and in between picking up those paratransit rides, they are then diverted over to these microtransit rides when possible, and kind of shuffle around all day, essentially the same as an Uber. They just come back to KRT at night.
And what has that response been since you've
It's been positive. You know, it's tough to get a clear understanding. People ask, how's the pilot program working? Well, I point to the 90% of the completion. I point to the numbers of rides going up every single month. We're now hovering around 3,500, but it's tough to say for sure. Microtransit works when it replaces those fixed routes. Right now, what we've had for the last several months is microtransit layered on top of the fixed routes.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not really seeing the cost savings there. And we did that because our board was cognizant of the fact of, hey, this is big change for Kanawha County. How do we do this in a way that's comfortable for our passengers? And we're now to that point where we're saying, okay, let's take the training wheels off, remove the fixed route line, and let the microtransit really take over.
And sometimes people just don't like change. I mean, present company included. You just don't like change.
Hey, I don't pretend that I understand how challenging it is to ride the bus every day. I think a lot of us take our vehicles for granted. I think the people who ride the bus are very resourceful, and they can adapt to the change. But I certainly think that their concerns are valid. I want them to know that we've done everything we can to make sure that those areas that these changes are taking place still have service of some type. The last thing we want to do is pull the rug out and say, hey, I don't know how you're getting to work if you live in this area or that area. We don't want to do that to people. We want to say, hey, this is new and this is a change, and we want to do everything we can to educate you and tell you how it works, but we want you to be able to get to work. We want to make sure, we say KRT, we connect people to opportunity. That's what we want to do with our services.
Let's go back and talk about these public hearings. You got one coming up today. Talk about the wheres and the wins, but more importantly, what do you hope to gain from these public meetings? Start with the one this afternoon.
Yeah, so this afternoon at 5 p.m. at the Kanawha County Public Library on Capitol Street. And again, we're going to mirror that at noon on Friday at the same Kanawha County Public Library. The idea of those meetings are to share these plans, to say, hey, here's what this looks like. I want to paint a picture of why KRT is in this situation. So, hey, here's our funding. Here's what it costs to operate KRT. Here's why we're making this tough decision. And we want to give our passengers a chance to give us some feedback and say, hey, this is the reality of how these changes will impact me on a daily basis. So I can take that back to my board and say, hey, here's the feedback from the community on these potential changes. It's tough because it's a little bit different than the last time where we sat down and said, hey, are there any other ideas we can do to kind of mitigate these damages of potentially, originally it was taking away 11 routes. And I think we did that. We met in the middle and decreased frequency, but didn't eliminate anything. This one is more saying, hey, we know this program can work, and this is what we want to do, and this is how we're actually going to save money at KRT.
And when you've had these public meetings, because you've had other public meetings on this, and people have come and they've expressed concerns. People have said, I think this is a good idea. Others, like I said, sometimes we don't like change. I completely understand that. What have you taken from those public meetings, and how valuable have they been in going forward with these plans that you've got?
Sure. I think in different pieces, and I appreciate every person who comes in and takes the time out of their day to come. And again, you say that, a lot of people don't take time out of their day to come tell you you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
They may want to show up and tell you what they're frustrated with, and that's completely fine. But the one thing we heard was, hey, don't take it all away from us. We understand that times are tough. We understand you have a reality to live within, but don't take it all away from us. And I was proud that we were able to come back to the table and say, okay, well, maybe Sundays don't happen anymore, but 6 days a week, we're still providing service to those areas. And even with this change now, saying, hey, the 6 routes, that if they don't have the fixed route service, they're still going to have an opportunity to get to where they're going with KRT and KRT Plus.
All right. So you got 5 o'clock today and then noon on Friday?
Friday, correct. Yes, sir.
And both at the Kanawha Public Library. If for one reason or another, people cannot make those meetings, maybe they're working or they got something else going on, whatever, is there a way for them to weigh in as well?
Yeah, we will record those, and individuals can actually either hop on a Zoom and watch it if they're somewhere, but we will record those so they can watch them, and we will have links up also where they can submit their comments to us. We take those comments and send them out to our board members, so every single one of them can be categorized and they can read those and see, because again, it's real feedback. This is real change for people's everyday life, and we appreciate and respect that and want to do that as easily as possible for people.
Sean Hill, Executive Director of KRT. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be here. As I said, change is not always easy, and you've always been very open to come on the show and talk about it, and with these public meetings and whatever. So we'll see how everything goes, and I hope you have a good turnout, because again, that's what they need. They need turnout for those of you that use KRT. It's noon on Friday and then 5 o'clock today. Public meetings are held at the Kanawha County Public Library. There's all sorts of information available on the website. Hit the website again.
Right on KRT.com.
All right. Sean, appreciate it, man. We'll take a break. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live is brought to you in part by Live Healthy, West Virginia, presented by WVU Medicine. It's a podcast promoting healthier lifestyles in and beyond the state. Check out the latest episodes, WVMetronews.com. Under the podcast menu. Bigley Piggly Wiggly hotline 304-345-5858. Tony Taylor text 304-935-5008. We'll take a break. Back after this on the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses have been creating jobs in West Virginia since 1997.
I'm Doug Leach, founder and CEO of Ascension Recovery Services. We've done a number of projects with Jarrett Construction. Finding people that really care about what they do and care about what we do is pretty unique. In Jarrett Construction, they care. They're really, really good people. Good people do the right thing, and they're very skilled. They have all the qualities that make up just a perfect construction partner, and they just build us a phenomenal building.
Right on time, right on budget. Call on Jarrett Construction.
Get ready for the upcoming high school football season by downloading the Metro News television app. See summer previews from the state's top teams. Plus, watch Talkline, Sportsline, 3 Guys Before the Game, Metro News Middays, and Hotline right on your smart TV or streaming device. Get the Metro News television app from the Apple App Store or Google Marketplace. Metro News Television is powered by Dan Cava GMC, Gomart, Lou Wendell Marine, Stike Wealth Enhancement, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, and Polka Valley Bank.
Adventure awaits off-road. Take control with Segway side-by-sides at Trojan Landing Marine and Power Sports in Charleston. These aren't your average machines. Segway side-by-sides are built for performance, power, and wild terrain. Conquer the trails, haul your gear, or just explore the great outdoors like never before. Built tough, made for thrill seekers, ready when you are. Trojan Landing Marine and Power Sports, where adventure begins. Visit TrojanLanding.com and ride into something epic.
Pancake favorites IHOP are back with the Cookie Butter Pancake of the Month. And they're this week's 50-50 Friday. Don't miss the Cookie Butter Pancake, filled with cookie crumbles and topped with Biscoff cookie butter. Only for a limited time at IHOP. Where the shortest distance between two people is a smile, IHOP. Friday at 9 a.m. Go to WCHSnetwork.com and click the 50-50 Friday button to get 50% off gift certificates for IHOP, courtesy of the WCHS family of networks.
Welcome back to the show. 17 minutes in front of 10 o'clock. Bigley Piggly Wiggly hotline 304-345-5858. Tony Taylor text 304-935-5008. I want to tell you about this promotion that we are doing. All of our radio stations are involved in this. This one, WCHS. V100, Superstar Country, KWS, 95.3 KAZ, Charleston's ESPN Radio, 98.7 Mountain and The Beat, the first ever Trojan Landing Marine and Power Sports Ride and Riches game with your chance to win a new 2025 Royal Enfield Himalayan, $450 and $1,000 in cash. You can listen daily to all of our stations to qualify or register at a bunch of locations throughout the Kanawha Valley. I'll give you just 3 of those right now. You can register at Deal Design Furniture, Eddie's Tire and Service, and Clearwater Solutions, just a couple of places. And you can also go over to any of the station websites for information there. And again, we're giving you information daily on air as well. And what the way this will work is we will have some folks that are qualified for the grand prize, and we'll call those folks and we'll have them all on location at Trojan Landing coming up on Saturday, August the 9th, and you must be present to win. And we'll get everybody there, and we'll see who's going to win that new bike and also $1,000 in cash courtesy of Trojan Landing. So check it out. Bigley Piggly Wiggly hotline 304-345-5858. Tony Taylor text 304-935-5008. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live brought to you in part by Bridge Valley, offering custom tailored trainings to supply skilled graduates and apprenticeships for your company. Visit bridgevalley.edu. Metro News Midday coming up later today at noon, powered by Salango Law. Again, no Amanda Barra as she continues a much-needed vacation. Soaking up some sun and some margaritas somewhere. She'll be back with us, though, next Monday. Coming up on today's show, though, Howard Monroe is going to join us. Now, Howard, if you're not familiar with Howard, he's frequently on Talkline. He has a show similar to this, although it's a little bit longer in length in Wheeling. So we're going to talk to him about the continued cleanup there. And also, with Howard, we're going to get into some politics as well. Howard is a lot more left of center than I am. And for those of you who think that I'm liberal, and people think that, and other people think I'm too conservative. I don't know. It means I'm doing something right, I guess. Howard, definitely liberal. Great guy, though. So he'll be on the show during the 2 o'clock hour today. Also, State Republican Party Chair Matt Herridge will join us to weigh in on Trump, Iran, Israel, etc. We'll continue to talk about the heat, as you may expect. Apparently, the heat is it's very hot. And, of course, Open Line West Virginia coming up at after 2:30, Metro News Midday. Just me today, coming up today, noon till 3. On this show tomorrow, Tim Brady from the Charleston CVB will be stopping by. Looking forward to our conversation, as always, with Mr. Brady. Text says, Israel and Iran violate Trump's peace deal. Trump was so mad he dropped the F-bomb on C-SPAN. Check that clip out if you can find it. It's hilarious and makes a coherent, valid statement. And he makes a coherent, valid statement. Says that, yeah, he's a little upset. I heard that. I didn't hear it live, but I did hear it overnight. The exact quote was, and of course I lost. I had it on my phone and I lost it. But it was basically something to the effect of, Israel and Iran don't know what the blank they are doing. That was the exact statement. This comes, of course, after yesterday, when it was a whirlwind of activity yesterday afternoon, and I've got to cover most of it on the on Metro News Midday yesterday, as I guess after 1 o'clock our time or something like that, Iran fired on Qatar, and the missiles that they fired were intercepted by Qatari officials, and no casualties or anything like that. And then a late afternoon, President Trump announces a ceasefire. But apparently that ceasefire didn't ceasefire very much, because the bombs were still flying overnight. And just picturing one of the sides going, oh, you meant that exactly. You meant a real, you meant that for real. So we'll see what happens. It's an ever-developing story. The guys on Talk Line, of course, will have coverage, and I'll have more coverage coming up later today on Metro News Midday. The governor has a press event today in Beckley at 11. Don't really know what it's about, but the Talk Line boys and, of course, Brad will be covering it as well. I want to just drop this in here quickly. This story, if you want to call it that, broke late last week. It has to do with a couple of West Virginia Circuit Court judges, one of those being Judge Mary Claire Akers here in Kanawha County. Chris Dickerson of the West Virginia Record, which follows and monitors the court system in West Virginia, first reported on it, and it is reported again today in the Gazette Mail. Judge Akers and a judge from Pleasants County, Judge Tim Sweeney, were admonished for what was said to media members as it pertained to child welfare issues. In the matter with Judge Akers, the West Virginia Judicial Disciplinary Council opened up a complaint in March, and Judge Akers replied through her attorney in April and via email May 13th. And you'll recall that Judge Akers had presided on an issue of abuse, neglect, actually several neglect cases. This one involving a minor, here's what we understand about the story. Judge Akers learned that a 12-year-old had attempted suicide after being placed in a hotel when a foster placement didn't work out. Now, the article continues. Judge Akers entered an administrative order calling for the secretary of the state's DHHR to come before her to discuss the situation. The meeting took place in late February, and there were actually several media members there in attendance. Judge Akers was quoted in a story that was covered by WSAZ television, and the next day she was on Talk Line, and apparently the complaint or whatever it was had to do with the fact that on her Talk Line appearance, she alluded to her time as a prosecutor in Kanawha County. Seems like kind of small potatoes to me, but what do I know? By a 7-1 vote, the JIC said it found probable cause that Judge Akers had violated 4 rules of the Code of Judicial Conduct, but no formal discipline was happening. And when I read that story, and I read it last week, it was actually Judge Akers, and I don't know, should I say that she talked to the media? Maybe I shouldn't. It just seems like a lot of crap to me, and that's just me. I mean, in my opinion, she did absolutely nothing wrong or out of bounds, and most people seem to agree with it. I've actually had several people that have reached out to me, asking to come on the show to come to Judge Akers' defense, and similar stories may have been told about the judge out of Pleasants County as well. So a lot of people out to defend her. Not that the woman we affectionately call Judge Kickass needs needs any help. By the way, TJ Meadows has written a commentary about it. It'll probably be posted on the website tomorrow and will be heard on air tomorrow morning. Again, it seems like much ado about nothing to me, but not my wheelhouse, so what do I know? The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live is brought to you, of course, by the folks at Pinnacle Consultants. And Pinnacle offers a 4-phase assessment for your properties: inspection, sampling, and analysis, comprehensive reporting, and management planning. Visit pinnaclecorp.net, because what you don't know can hurt you. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more after this. This is Metro News. This is not Metro News. What show is this? I get my shows mixed up. This is the voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses are small businesses with big impact, including Generations Physical Therapy and Snap Fitness.
Summer savings are happening right now at Walker Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and Hurricane, and you can't afford to miss this. Now, you know that Gene and Ryan have built their business the old-fashioned way by making friends. There are no gimmicks or games at Walker, just honest, fair deals. But those deals are getting better this summer. That's because right now Walker has employee pricing going on all month long. Yeah, that's right. You pay what we pay. Check this out. New 2025 Ram crew caps with up to $12,500 off MSRP. You'll also find new Ram 2500 crew cabs priced with up to $10,000 off MSRP. And if an SUV for a family vacation is what you're after this summer, look no further than the Jeep Grand Cherokee. That's the one with third row seating, and you'll find it right now Walker priced with up to $8,000 off MSRP. Don't wait, because these deals and this inventory aren't going to last long. Take that short 20-minute drive from Charleston or Huntington to Walker Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, just off the Hurricane exit of I-64. Walker Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, making friends one deal at a time.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from IQBar. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at eatiqbar.com/policy/terms of service.
Most protein bars are packed with sugar, carbs, and unpronounceable ingredients. There's a much better option. I'm Will, and I crafted IQBar plant protein bars with clean, functional, delicious ingredients to empower doers like you with superior brain and body fuel.
Now you can get 20% off all IQBar products plus free shipping when you text IQBar to 64,000. That's IQBar to 64,000.
Welcome back to the show. 6 minutes away from 10. Bigley, Piggly Wiggly hotline 304-345-5858. Tony the Taylor text 304-935-5008. Text says, Dave, Kanawha Charleston Humane Society took in a mama dog and her 14 innocent babies that were left in a box in this heat. 3 of those pups have died, and these puppies' skin coming off because of sunburns while basically baking alive. Yeah, I saw this story too. And a kitten died after suffering from being abandoned in a box right in our lake. When is the legislature going to start paying attention to the giant jump and all these evil acts being done to innocent animals and actually do something about it? Reach out to your legislators. Reach out to your legislators. I agree with you more. Texas Dave, I'm not a judge, but if Judge Akers is wrong, I don't want to be right. State leaders should be ashamed that a judge gets reprimanded for speaking the truth about their failed foster care system. Our state leaders are worthless when it comes to child welfare, health care, and education in the state. They are why people don't want to come here, not the likes of Judge Akers, says the texter. Of course, the story that has many of us upset is the fact that Graziano's is closing their downtown Capitol Street location. Second time that they have announced that. This time it appears to be for real, though. It's sad. You know, I really like Graziano's, especially the downtown location. It's kind of got that big city deli real pizza style feel to it. I am sad to see it go. But I will say this. I was downtown Friday night for the launch of Animal Ale. That was the night. It's Steve Animal beer being sold exclusively at 5th Street Brewery. We had a big launch party at 6 o'clock Friday evening. And the vibe in downtown Charleston Friday night was absolutely amazing. I mean, people everywhere. And it was the kind of people that you want downtown. And what I mean by that is all walks of life, professional people, families downtown just enjoying what I guess technically was spring at that time because summer didn't kick in until Friday night. But for all intents and purposes, it was summer, a summertime evening in the capital city. Just everybody, we actually, a couple of us from the station actually walked. Yeah, I know you're thinking Dave Allen walked. Yeah, I actually walked from here, from our offices at 1111 down over to Summer Street, to 5th Street. And it's just I don't know, man, just the vibe downtown I just thought was really, really cool. And that's what the city of Charleston had said that they wanted when they first started developing these things, like, closing the streets for downtown eateries and things like that. And all the naysayers, everybody said, oh, it'll never work and blah, blah. Well, it seems to be working pretty well. I mean, based on the amount of people that were in downtown Charleston on Friday evening. And again, no issues whatsoever. Not saying downtown Charleston is perfect. No downtown is perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But I will say there were a whole lot of people down there. All the restaurants were just booming. And it was just a great vibe for the capital city. And if we had people in from out of town, even better. A great look, if you will. I mean, it took us a while to even get into 5th Street. That says something about the popularity of Steve Animal or the amount of people he owes money to, one of the two. But everybody was just kind of crowding in there to 5th Street. It was the same at Short Story. It was the same at Adelphia and all of those downtown Charleston locations. So hats off to you. And then I didn't make it over to the Rolls on the River because by that point I was pretty much tired, and I'm old and need to get back home to Putnam County. But Rolls on the River was great. And then what happened on Saturday on the Boulevard, I mean, we shut down basically from an area from Greenbrier Street down to California. And literally thousands of people at Foam at the Dome. And again, people will say, I don't want to be around a bunch of drunks. There was absolutely none of that whatsoever. Zero, zilch, none of it. No issues with either event. So I just say that to say this. I'm very happy that at least it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Still got a ways to go, but I am very happy to say that downtown Charleston is turning some corners with having events. That's not like an editorial on behalf of me. They're turning some corners when it comes to things like that. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live is brought to you by Morgan & Morgan. If you're injured, hire Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. TJ Meadows. Man, could you be any busier this morning? Because you come down frequently and you work in the production studio where Ryan and I've just been seeing you going back and forth on a fun. Are you just trying to make yourself look important?
No, I mean, there's a lot going on. Iran, Israel, what's going on with that? In case you haven't noticed, it's really hot outside.
Yeah.
So I've been.
Have you noticed as the temperature goes up, it tends to get hotter?
It's solid science there, Dave.
I'm not just a pretty face.
Well, so I'm watching energy markets. I'm watching the actual stock market this morning based on what's going on with the ceasefire, the oil markets. Oil futures are going down and oil prices are going down. And the market doesn't think that Iran's going to do anything with the Strait of Hormuz, and they're not. Mm-hmm. President is upset. He dropped some language this morning. So there's a lot going on in the world. There's a NATO summit coming up. Mm-hmm. A lot happening. So, trying to keep on top of all of it.
All right. And the governor's speaking in Beckley at 11 o'clock. We'll find out what it's about because we don't know as of yet.
We don't. So it's, hey, come to the press conference and see what we're going to talk about.
There you go. I'll be back with Metro News Midday. Solo this week. Again, Amanda's on vacation, so just me and you coming up at noon today. We'll see you then. We'll be back on this show tomorrow. Till then, have fun. Love somebody.
WCHS AM, W243DRFM Charleston, and W283AQ Cross Lanes, a WVRC media station. We're proud to live here too.